Hello and welcome to another video about the construction of phase 2 of Heaton Lodge Junction. Now, this is episode 21 now, we're cracking on. I just want to say actually before I go any further, thanks to all of you that have been subscribing to these videos. We're now over 6,000, which is really, really great. And it just gives me so much inspiration to do these videos. And I hope you like watching them as much as I like making them. So thanks again, and for those of you that haven't subscribed, please do. Makes a big difference, and thanks. So anyway, today we have got a bit of a soldering lesson actually, because I know there's loads of you out there that hate soldering. There's loads of YouTube videos about soldering, but I'm just going to show you 2 minutes, in 2 or 3 minutes, how I do it and how it works. We're going to talk about the ponds that we did last week, and it hasn't quite turned out to plan, but anyway, we'll go through that in a minute. And we're also going to look at the progress on the track laying that I've done since I saw you last week. So hang on for the ride, and here we go again. Right, do you remember last week when we did that water pour, making our little stagnant ponds next to the MGR sidings just here? Well, now for the big reveal. I have had a sneaky peek, I must admit, earlier, and let me just show you where we are with it. Right, now, oops, I've just knocked over one of the gantry towers, but not to worry. So let's have a look at this. I've got to be honest, it has not come out as planned. I think what I've done on reflection is looking at that previous video of last week, and if you want to see how to water pour or kind of just go through it anyway yourselves, if you've not watched my videos before, then I've just watched it again, and I think I added too much hardener to the resin, because although on reflection, actually looking, reflection is the operative word, it actually looks okay. What's happened is I've got all this cloudy stuff coming from a kind of, some bricks and boulders in the river, and I think what's happened is the resin has reacted with the super glue and formed that cloudy, I don't know what it is, but it's kind of growing on me, I've got to be honest. Because again, don't forget, it's a stagnant pond this. You find all sorts of pollution in it. And so we've got all this white at the edges, which given I'm modelling in winter as well, it actually doesn't look too bad. So this is a prime example of how you find that things don't turn out quite well, as you expect, get my words out. But actually, it's not too bad after all. So this is the other pond here. The same thing's happened here. We've got a bit of clouding, but the one thing that's really got my eye, which I'm not really happy with, I don't know if the camera can pick this up. Yes, it can. You see all that, it looks like a sheet of very thin ice. That should not be there. It should be very kind of smooth with none of that in at all. I think I have added too much hardener, but again, seeing as I'm modelling in winter, the temptation is I'm going to leave it because it doesn't look unlike there's just a thin band of ice going down there. So yeah, I'm going to leave this. Thinking as I'm talking to the camera, I'm going to leave this. I'm going to leave the cloudy, whatever it is that's caused by probably the super glue or the super glue hardener that I used to super glue down those bricks, that gate, etc., and that bike. But I think I'm going to leave it because it doesn't look too bad. What we're going to do today, we're going to do this in a few minutes, is we're going to add static grass all around here. So we're going to see exactly how it turns out. But I have a sneaky suspicion that it'll actually turn out okay. So again, don't get disheartened when things go wrong, because sometimes they can turn out actually for the better. Again, I keep looking at this myself. Yeah, I'm going to keep this. I quite like that effect of what could be very thin sheet ice. So I'm going to leave it. I guess if I was modelling it in the height of summer, I wouldn't. I'd do it again. I'd do another pour, but I'm going to leave it. So there we go. We'll come back to this in a minute. Let's have a look at another video and yeah, see you soon. Now, also, I just want to show you updated track work that I've done since I saw you last week. Again, those are the two stagnant ponds we've just been looking at. I'm going to pan round. These are the 4 MGR sidings, holding sidings, if you like, on the down main line, and they come into one. And this track here is going to go past Healy Mills Depot, and it's going to then rejoin the main line a bit further on. But what I thought was, given that we've got 2 separate heights, which I deliberately factored in, as you can see, I'm just going to pan around to show you again. So we've got the MGR sidings there, coming round here. Nice little embankment. We're going to make a really nice embankment here. But what I thought, given we've just done the stagnant ponds, is I'm going to do another water feature just here. I'll just take this bridge away a minute. So again, this is going to be, so I'll just pan out. This is going to be, I think, a bridge, and where I've drawn the black marker pen, I think I'm going to have a big stagnant, I keep using that word, don't I? But a big pond, overflow water or whatever. And the tracks which lead to Healy Mills, these 3 here, are going to go through this junction here, and they're going to go, I haven't put the carts down yet, but you can see these carts on, yeah, straight in front of the camera now, which are going to be lined up with this one, and Healy Mills is just a few hundred yards scale further on. So yeah, I think this bridge here, I've got quite a few of these, and I bought them from a laser cutting company and sprayed them, primed them and detailed them, and they're actually really good. But I don't think even the Victorians would have gone to the lengths of building such an elaborate bridge over a height of which is probably 2 or 3 foot in real height, or 2 to 3 foot scale. So what I'm going to do is just buy some plate girder bridge sides and construct a bridge, single track bridge, and bring the line over there with a nice water feature underneath. So those are the plans. The 3 tracks, which you can just see to your left of that box, have been brought all the way up. And so we're probably halfway along the marshalling yard now. We've got all that to do, but we've already done all that down there. And some of the, at the widest, we're looking at 23 tracks, but we've still got plenty of room in the middle for all the buildings that I've got planned, which are going to be constructed out of laser cut wood, and they're going to look really, really good. So yeah, I'm pleased with that. Nice water feature there. And again, the MGR sidings just there. So that is what I've done since I saw you last week. Just a bit of an update. And yeah, let's crack on with the next subject. Now, I know this is a basic subject, but I really just wanted to touch on soldering for a minute, because there are so many modelers, even now, who really kind of avoid it like the plague. And I did for years, but I just realized after a while that you just need two secret weapons to successfully, if I can get my words out, solder easily and quickly. So I'm just going to go through the ingredients, really what you need, because the first thing you need is a big soldering iron. This one's an Antex 80 watt iron, and I know there's 25 watt ones, and they're great for kind of probably N-gauge, etc. But if you're doing double O gauge or anything bigger than that, you really need a big soldering iron that's going to heat up the rail or whatever you're soldering to the correct temperature, so the solder will flow correctly. The other thing you need, which I don't often see, is you need this. You need tip tinner. And how many times have you dipped your soldering iron onto a bit of flux or a bit of solder wires, and find that just nothing flows onto it, and you get this kind of dull end? It's an absolute pain, it really is, and it happens to everybody. But apart from cleaning the end, which is only temporary, what you can do is just dip it into tip tinner, which is only a few quid online, but it's really, really good, and it gives your soldering iron a new lease of life. So the other thing you need is obviously flux, and the other thing you need is solder wire. So I'm just going to show you really quickly, because I know it's a basic subject that you can get anywhere else, but I'm just going to show you really quickly how I do it. Now, the only other ingredient I missed out is a nice cup of Yorkshire tea, which I've got here. Because soldering is not my best subject, but I did realise after a while it's much, much easier than what people think. The first thing I'm doing now is I've just stripped off a bit of plastic end, and I'm just going to get ready to solder this end onto this rail here. So again, bearing in mind that I use too much of everything, and I know there'll be some people who are expert solderers rather, who kind of shake their head in disbelief. But anyway, it works for me, does this. All I'm doing is I've just dipped that, or just put a little bit of flux onto the end of that wire. But I forgot, of course, to do the first thing, which is use this. I'll just move the camera around. Use the soldering iron to just dip into that tip thinner, and what you find is you've now got, I'll just wipe it on the just off camera, so you've now got a really, really good silver end, which will take soldering wire really, really easily. So again, just to recap, I've put some flux on the end of that strip of wire. I'm just going to dip the soldering iron onto the solder wire, and then you can hear it, it's just flowing really, really nicely onto there. So that's the first job. Second job is we're going to put a little bit of flux, actually using none other than a very small screwdriver. I should use a cocktail stick really, but anyway. And I'm just going to put a bit of flux on that rail there. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm just going to, and this works for me, I keep saying it, double O gauge, N gauge, doesn't matter what you're modelling, but it's dead easy. So I've put some solder wire on the end of my soldering iron, obviously, and now I've dipped it in tinner. It flows really well, and I'm just going to keep it on there. There we go. I don't know if you can see that, but that's flowed really nicely onto that rail. So again, I'll just move the camera around slightly so you can see better. Zoom in a little bit. So we've got a really nice bit of flux on our rail there. And then, seeing as both ends have now got flux on, I'm just going to bend that wire. I'm now going to dip it in the flux again. Yeah, I know, soldering experts, you're shaking your heads because there's too much flux, but anyway, works for me. And then all I'm going to do, just bend it round like this. Sorry, my hand's in the way of the camera, but I hope you can just about see that. Try and get my hand out of the way. So I'm just going to touch the soldering iron to the end of the, just off camera. I've put a bit more soldering wire on the end, and I'm just going to put the two together like so. And there we have it. So that is an extremely strong joint which will never come off, and that is just how I solder. The secret is tip thinner, a really hot soldering iron, and lots of flux. The only thing I would say you do need to do is, I haven't got any actually to hand, but you need some neutralizing fluid. I'll put it up on the list of ingredients to successfully solder. And the neutralizing fluid, you just dip a paintbrush into the neutralizing fluid and dip it over this solder joint once you've done it. It's like the consistency of water, to be honest, but all that does, as it says on the tin, is neutralize the joint so it doesn't corrode later on. So that's it. That's how I do it, and it's dead easy. So get yourself a really high power soldering iron, tip thinner, flux, and obviously some solder wire, and just give it a go, because it's much easier than what people make out. I hope that's helped. Let's go on to the next subject. Right, let's move on to a bit of static grassing. Now, next week, we're going to do these two embankments that we did together a couple of weeks ago. As you can see, I've painted one brown and I've not yet painted the other. Added the pebbles into the, the filler on top of the polystyrene, but I've not painted it brown yet. But what we're going to be doing this week, I'll just pan out and show you, is we're going to be doing the surrounding area of the two ponds that we've just been talking about today. So the first job is just basically to paint the surrounding area around the ponds, which, as you can see, I've masked off with red masking tape. The reason I've done this is simply because we're going to be squirting some of this matte varnish, and what we don't want to do is to get it on the nice glossy surface of the pond and make it matte, because that is not going to look very good. Anyway, let us run through the ingredients very quickly. It's exactly the same for it is doing the embankments as it is the surrounding area around the ponds. I just use normal PVA glue. I've used PVA glue for the whole 50 meters of scenery on Heaton Lodge Junction Phase 1. I don't use any of this expensive so-called layering glue or whatever. It's just bog standard, basic, cheap PVA. We need some matte varnish, which is basically to make the second layer of static grass fix okay. This is matte varnish. It's clear. It's by Crystal Clear Rust-Oleum. I get it online. I think it's about £8 to £9 a can. It's a lot more expensive in B&Q, but it works well for me. I use Blended Turf Earth Blend by Woodland Scenics, just to represent a few weeds inside the static grass. My other secret weapon is this Tremendous earth powder. Tremendous is obviously a brand, but you can use the crushed earth method, which I've said many times before, and it's just basically getting clods of earth from your garden, drying it out on a baking tray, and then crushing it with a rolling pin, sieving it through a sieve, and then you'll get something like this, which you need to sprinkle into the static grass. I'm going to show you how in a minute, but it makes such a massive difference. I'm just using also this bog standard basic static grass applicator by Knock, and the two blends of static grass I'm using are both by Mini Nature. I think it's actually spelt Mini Natur, N-A-T-U-R. It's a German company. They do two that I actually use. I use the autumn fall or late fall blend, and I use, it's like a hay blend. The proper names are coming up on your screen now. I can't actually remember, but it's something like that. But it's definitely late fall and something else, but it'll be bobbing up in a minute. So those are all the ingredients we need. We're just going to get cracking, putting some PVA glue around these lakes, and then I'll show you exactly how to make really, really good static grass. And I would say as well, you can do it in double O. It's for double O gauges, it's for N gauges, it's for O gauge. It doesn't matter what it is. You can just use the same ingredients as I've got here, and I guarantee it will look superb. It doesn't matter as well if you're modeling summer or winter scenery or whatever, because the combination of static grass that I use is found on embankments everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's summer or winter, simply because in summer you find that the long grass of embankments often turns yellow anyway because it just doesn't get enough water. So there we have it. Let's move on to applying the PVA glue. Okay, so all I'm going to do first is just apply this cheapy PVA glue all around the surrounding area that we're going to static grass. Again, I don't use all this layering stuff that you can buy. I'm sure it's very good, but I don't think, to be honest, it'll give you any better results than what I've obtained using PVA glue. And as if you can, sorry, start again. And for those of you that have watched my videos on static grass, or looked at the videos of the static grass on Heaton Lodge Junction Phase 1, you will see that, I think anyway, that the grass there is really, really spectacular, even if I say so myself, because it's just, yeah, it just makes the model look really, really authentic. And hopefully you can do exactly the same with yours. And I've said this before too, but static grass you can apply in any scale. The method that I'm using over the top of your existing static grass. So if you've got some sort of grass effect that you don't like, you can just simply paint this PVA glue over the top of it and you will get the same effect as this. So that's that done. Let's start applying the static grass. Right, let us begin. So here we go. It's just really satisfying doing this static grass, I've always found. That's sticking up really well. You probably just noticed I've stuck some drill bits into the dried clay surrounding, simply to provide that earth, which is what you need when you use a static grass applicator like this. Right, so I'm just going to, forgive the noise, I'm just going to make these fibres stand up even more. So let's just take a quick look at that. Forgive the jumping around. So you can see the static grass fibres are upright. And now we are going to drop in our secret weapon number 2, which is the earth powder, or just the crushed earth, because that is the thing that makes such a difference and actually makes static grass go from okay to really spectacular. So let's do that now in front of the camera and I'll show you exactly what difference it makes. Right, so we have our earth powder here, which again is either earth powder from Tremendous, the brand, which you can get online, spelt Tremendous. And I'm just going to sprinkle in this earth powder here, or crushed earth. As I keep saying, you can crush the earth up yourself and have just exactly the same effect at no cost to yourselves. That is if you've got a garden. But this makes such a huge difference. And I think really it's because grass obviously grows from earth, but it's not something the eye really picks up. But without the earth underneath, I think grass would look extremely strange. So this kind of makes that difference. And it just adheres or sticks to the glue underneath, the PVA, and just makes such a difference. Right, we're nearly done this bit. There we go. We're going to add another layer in a minute. Just doing this one-handed while I hold the camera with the other one. Right, okay, I think that's going to be just about right. And let's just do another layer of static grass on the top of that. So what we're going to do is we are going to spray our matte varnish over the top of our first layer of static grass, like so. Now you need to spray it till you actually see the matte varnish adhere. You can see it all in droplets if you like. So don't be afraid of spraying it too much. It's absolutely fine. You can't spray it too much, to be honest. Better too much than too little. It should be my mantra really, because as I keep saying, I use too much of everything. So there we go. Okay, so that is just normal spray varnish, and let's try the, I'm going to have to put the camera down and back on the stand again, so bear with me 1 second. Okay, so here we are again, second layer, which we're just starting with. Now notice I've not actually put any pebbles under this static grass. If you look at my previous video on doing the embankments, we put pebbles on the embankment into the filler because we wanted to mimic tufts of grass. I don't think there'd be many tufts actually around a pond, so this time I've not actually done it. Okay, so that in essence is our pond finished. Well, at least the one on the right anyway. As I said earlier when I was looking at this, when I first uncovered it, I'm quite liking all the cloudiness and the murkiness. I need to tidy it up a bit because I've managed to get some matte varnish on the surface, which has dulled it slightly. But in essence, I'm pretty pleased with that. It will look really good with all these MGR wagons traipsing past. And we're going to be doing quite a few more of these. Again, not 100%, or I wasn't 100% happy with that surface, which, to be honest, if I wasn't doing it in winter, I'd do a repour, but I think that surface area looks a bit like sheets of thin ice, which is fine because, as we all know, I'm modelling in winter. But I'm pretty pleased with that. All in all, it's turned out okay in the end. Just shows again that when you make mistakes, you can it ends up sometimes being a cloud with a silver lining. So that's it for this week. Thanks again for watching. Next week, actually, we're going to Norfolk to see Tim Horn at Tim Horn Baseboards. He's busy actually laser cutting the next building in the cement factory complex. The first one, of course, you can't miss it, can you? Is right behind me. So we're going to be going there. Lots more in store. Really looking forward to doing it. Once again, thanks for subscribing. Over 6,000 subscribers now, which is fantastic. So please like the video. Any comments, I'll always answer, good or bad. And I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.